It's a partly cloudy day with a chance of eggshells. Detective Pye is practicing his egg launching skills between missions. Shoot the bullseye. Isolate the variable m to raise your score.
Okay, so our goal is to get the red bullseye alone. So we want to get the M alone. So we have to shoot all the other bullseyes until that M is alone. So all the green, all the numbers are on one side now. That's great. But now the M is over here. And look at what's the problem right now. There's a little teeny tiny negative sign in front of the M. So we have to shoot this because the M still is not isolated. It's not alone. Now that we did that, the M is on the same side as the numbers. We know in math and algebra that the numbers and the letters do not want to be on the same side of the equal sign. So we now have to shoot the green bullseye, both of them, to get them away from the M. So now M is alone. So we're good to go. All right, here we want to get our M alone. What's stopping that red M from being alone? That negative 27. So we're going to shoot the bullseye and move it on over to the other side. Over here, we have a negative M, so we know M's not alone yet, but first we want to move all the green over to the other side. Now we want to move that little negative symbol over, and now we want to move the greens away from the red one more time. Okay, we're going to move our negative 17 over. M is alone. We're very happy with that. Okay.
Detective, Code Blue. 1. Miss Irma has lost her marbles. Not just any marbles, her new, shiny oxblood marbles. Use the clues to help Miss Irma find her cherished marbles.
Okay, let's click next.
On Wednesday, Miss Irma had a total of 80 marbles. Last Thursday, Miss Irma's granddaughter Yuri won some shiny new oxblood marbles for Irma's collection. After the big win, Irma had a total of 140 marbles. How many oxblood marbles did Yuri win? You can use the equation station to help you find this clue.
An equation is the equality of two numerical or algebraic expressions. For example, this first clue is actually just an equation.
Precisely, and the solution to the equation is hidden in the variable. In this case, your challenge is to find the value of the variable m. Good luck, detective.
Okay, so here we go. Let's click next and see what we can do.
Make an estimate to enter.
What number added to 80 will give us 140? Estimate the number.
Okay, so we want to think what number added to 80 gives us 140. Well, let's break this down a little bit simpler. We know what number plus 8 would equal 14. 6. So a good estimate would be 60. So we're going to turn our little dial till we get to 60. And we're going to click the check mark.
That is a reasonable estimate.
We're reasonable.
Granted.
All right.
To use the equation station, select the inverse operation or opposite operation to isolate the variable.
Okay, next. How do I isolate the variable?
So that m is all by itself on one side.
So remember, to isolate a variable, we have to use the inverse order of operations. We have to work in reverse. So if we see addition, we would do subtraction. If we saw subtraction, we would do addition. If we saw multiplication, we would do division. If we saw division, we would do multiplication. Let's try this one.
But be careful. You can't just move the numbers anywhere you want. You have to try to simplify the equation using the properties of equality. The properties of equality state that the same number is added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided on both sides of a true equation. The equation stays true. We don't want our pan balance to get all wobbly.
There's that scale. Got to keep the scale balanced.
Select the inverse operation to get started.
Okay, so right here, we see that we have a plus 80. Plus means addition. What's the opposite of addition or the inverse of addition? Subtraction. So we're going to click the subtraction symbol and click
Type
done.
the number that should be subtracted from both sides of the equation to isolate the variable.
Now, what number are we subtracting from both sides? Remember, this would be our scale line. And now we want to get rid of that plus 80 by subtracting 80 from both sides. So we're going to type in 80 and click our check.
Baby. The equation
Boom, baby.
reports that m equals 60. But let's double check. Substitute 60 for m to check if m plus 80 is equal to 140. No, healthy as a horse. Substitution is a way to check the solution. If m equals 60, then 60 may be substituted for m in any expression containing m. Give it a try.
Okay, so now we're going to substitute our solution into the original
Substitute for
equation
m
to check.
if the equation is true.
Okay, so we said that 60 was our solution, so we're going to type 60 in for m and check it out.
Add 60 plus 80 to check if the equation is true.
So now let's say that your mental math is a little bit harder than 60 plus 80 here. We have a calculator option down here that you can pull up and do 60 plus 80, which we know is 140. We can close it out and type it in here and click check. We're done.
Excellent.
Do the dance.
Yuri won 60 oxblood marbles. Your estimate was right on.
All right, next question.
Miss Irma had a total of 140 marbles on Thursday. Now she has only 125 marbles. How many marbles are missing?
Let's see.
Make
Okay,
an estimate to enter.
again.
What number added to 125 will give us 140? Estimate the number.
Look up here. We're trying to see 125 is 5 away from 130. We know 130 is 10 away from 140. So 5 plus 10 would give us 15. So 15 is a really reasonable estimate. So let's turn our wheel to 15 and hit check.
That is a reasonable estimate.
Reasonable.
Access granted.
Woo!
Use inverse operations to isolate the variable.
Okay, so I'm going to draw my little scale line because that always helps us a little bit. Now, right here, m is what we want to be alone. We see plus 125. So right away, we know if we see a plus sign, we have to do the opposite, which is the minus sign. So let's click that in.
Type the number that should be subtracted from both sides of the equation to isolate the variable.
Now we know we should be getting rid of that 125. So let's type that in. Click check.
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby.
Substitute for m to check if the equation is true.
All right, let's substitute. So here we go. We're going to type in our solution. Check.
Add 15.
Now
plus
let's pull up the
125
calculator
to check if the equation is true.
just to be safe. So here's 15 plus 125 equals 140. So now we're going to type in our 140 because we know we did it correctly. Check. Don't forget to do the dance.
Excellent. You found the clue. 15 marbles are missing. Your estimate was right on.
Right on. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Shortly after the competition, Yuri divided her grandma's 60 new oxygen marbles into 4 bags. She spent the evening practicing her techniques against her pet squirrels. How many marbles were in each bag?
Okay, click next.
Make an estimate to enter.
What number multiplied by 4 will give us 60? Estimate the number.
Okay, so up here we're saying 4 times what gives us 60? Well, we know that 4 times 12 is 48, and 4 times 20 is 80, so we're somewhere in between 12 and 20. But now let's think of a clock. We always tell you when you're working with the 15 times tables to think of a clock. 15 times 1 is 15. Then 15 times 2 is 30. 15 times 3 is 45. And 15 times 4 is 60. It brings you full circle on that clock. So 15 would be our number.
That is a reasonable estimate.
Reasonable.
Access granted.
All right.
Use inverse operations to isolate the variable.
Now we have to think here. These two things are attached by multiplication. So what's the inverse operation of multiplication? Division. So we want to make sure we're dividing both sides.
Both sides of the equation should be divided by to isolate the variable. We must leave one m by itself on one side of the equation instead of 4 m's.
Right, so now we're going to divide both sides of this equation by 4.
Boom, baby.
Boom.
Substitute for m to check if the equation is true.
Okay, so now we're going to check this out. We know that 15 is our solution, so that's what we're typing in.
Multiply 4 times 15 to check if the equation is true.
Okay, let's pull up the calculator. 4 times 15 equals 60. So we did it right. So we're going to type in 60. Our check mark.
Excellent. You found the clue. 15 marbles were in each bag. Your estimate was right on.
We're really good estimators.
Great work. We now have enough information to begin questioning our witnesses. Who should we investigate first?
I'm going to go with the squirrels.
After badgering the squirrels and bribing them with acorns, each rodent forfeited 5 stolen marbles. Check to make sure you have found all the missing marbles.
Okay, let's go check it out.
Make an estimate to enter.
What number divided by 3 will give us 5? Estimate the number.
Okay, so let's work backwards. 5 times 3 gives us, I hope we all know this one, 15.
That is a reasonable estimate.
Super reasonable.
Access granted.
Okay, here we go.
Use inverse operations to isolate the variable.
Okay, so we're splitting it down the middle. We see right here we have a divided by sign. We know the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So we're going to click multiply.
Type the number that both sides of the equation should be multiplied by to isolate the variable.
And now if m is what we want isolated, we know that the 3 is what's stopping us. So we're going to put 3 in the box. Click check.
Boom, baby.
Boom. And we're done.
Substitute for m to check if the equation is true.
Okay, let's substitute. So if our value for m is 15, we're going to type it in there.
Divide 15 by 3 to check if the equation is true.
Pull up our calculator, do 15 divided by 3, and we were right.
We found all 15 missing marbles. Your estimate was right on.
Yay! He forgot his dance. I'll do it for you guys.
So what's our deductive discovery?
Okay.
To solve an equation, you must get the variable all by itself.
Isolate the variable.
He's kind of a loner. In this problem, 80 is added to the variable, so we just move it to the other side by subtracting 80.
Inverse, order of operations.
Or opposite of addition. However, if we subtract from the left side of the equation, we must also subtract from the right side. To check your answer, just substitute your solution for the variable. For example, if m equals 60, replace m with 60 and see if your equation remains true. If so, you found the missing number. Boom, baby. What a concept.
Okay, so how do we solve an equation? We have to isolate our variable by using the inverse order of operations. To check that we did it correctly, we are going to substitute our solution or our answer back into the original problem and make sure both sides of the equation are equal. That's our iReady tutorial. Now we're going to switch over and complete our quiz.
What would be a reasonable estimate for the value of m in this equation?
Okay, so a reasonable estimate. We see here we have 80, and we know we are missing a number, and we want to get up to 188. So the most reasonable estimate would be 100.
Use inverse operations and properties of equality to isolate the variable. Next, type the value of m in the input box, then click Done.
Okay, so down here you should pull up your pen option so you can do your work. M is what we want to isolate. So right here, this is what we have to move, a plus 80. The inverse of addition is subtraction. So we want to subtract 80 from both sides. Don't make fun of my handwriting. It's a little tricky to write on here. Okay, a lot tricky. That's an 8. All right, these cancel out. Additive inverses. Bring our m straight down to the bottom. Bring our equal sign down. And now what's 188 minus 80? If you don't know that off the top of your head, oh no, your calculator app doesn't work when you're doing this, but it's okay. 8 minus 0 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. And 1 minus nothing is 1. Now, if you want to pull up the calculator on your phone or on your actual laptop, you can feel free to do that. That's absolutely okay. But we're going to type in here 108, click check. And now before we click next, I'm just going to delete what I wrote.
What would be a reasonable estimate for the value of m in this equation?
Okay, so we have 31 plus some number equals 307. So let's make these more compatible numbers. That would help us. So if this would be 30, right, a compatible number of 30, 30 plus what would get us really close to 300. There's a dot there, pretend. 300. Okay, pretend there's a little tiny, that's my question mark, okay? All right, now, this would be 270. So right here, yes, we would have 270 as our reasonable answer. Okay. Let's do the work.
Operations and properties of equality to isolate the variable. Next, type the value of m in the input box, then click Done.
Okay, here's my line. I see that it's a plus 31. The inverse of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 31 from both sides. And here we go. These cancel out. Bring our m that's left over straight down. Here's my equal sign. Okay, 307 minus 31. 7 minus 1 gives us 6. And 30 minus 3 gives us 27. So down here in my answer, I want to type in 276 and click my check mark. Okay, I just want to delete my text before I move on.
What would be a reasonable estimate for the value of m in this equation?
Okay, let's think. 7 times what number is going to get us close to 91? Well, let's think about the times tables we do know. 7 times 11 is 77. 7 times 12 is 84. So that's pretty close to 12, right? 7 times 13 is 91. If you know your times tables a little bit more, we can do 84 plus 7, and that would take us up to 13. So 12 is our most reasonable estimate. Okay.
Use inverse operations and properties of equality to isolate the variable.
If
Next, type the value of m in the input box, then click Done.
Okay, so we draw our line. We know these are attached by multiplication, so the inverse would be division. So we have to divide both sides by 7, by 7. Now our calculator app didn't work down there, so let's say I do good old-fashioned long division. Okay, 7 goes into 9 one time with 2 left over. 7 goes into 21 3 times. Okay, I actually did good old short division instead of long division. But now down here, we're going to type in 13, check it off. Let's delete our text so we can solve the next one.
What would be a reasonable estimate for the value of m in this equation?
Okay, so let's think about this. Let's substitute them in. So if this 6 was a 5, because we know that increments of 5 are easier to deal with when we have numbers that end in 5 or 0. 100 divided by 5 would be equal to 20. So 100 divided by 6 is probably going to be in and around 21. That's a really good estimate. It's probably going to be a little higher, but we're going to do the work on the next page to show that.
Use inverse operations
Here we
and
go.
properties of equality to
Draw our
isolate the
line.
variable. Next,
Now,
type the value of m in the input box.
we are normally used to
click
seeing
Done.
this equation like this. M divided by 6 equals 21. Now that we have it set up like this, these two things mean the same exact thing. We're going to multiply both sides by 6. Those are parentheses. Okay, multiply both sides by 6. These are going to reduce. M is going to equal 21 times 6. All right, let's see. 6 times 1 gives us 6. 6 times 2 gives us 12. So we are going to get a total of 126. Check it off. Delete our text just so that we can see what comes next. Hit next. And we're done. So we got 100% and we're all set to go.